Good afternoon and welcome to the beginning of week 4 of your curriculum and assessment course. It is Sunday afternoon, March 26th. I hope you've all had a good week, and I hope that you enjoyed working together on your collaborative assignment. I'll be looking at those probably starting tomorrow. I'm always running a little bit behind, but I'm trying to get caught up on all of my grading and reading your posts. And I did want to say that most of your posts that you're making, whether it's on the discussion board or if it was on the assignment, most of them seem to have correct APA formatting. I had started a video for the APA formatting, but I didn't get too far. So I do want to say that most of you are doing that correctly. I'm going to insert a little piece in this video about some other APA ideas. But I'm still seeing the titles of books and articles capitalized with all the important words, just like we're taught. But please only capitalize the first word of a title. So in the case of our textbook, Curriculum Foundations, Principles, and Issues, the only word that is capitalized in the title of this book when you cite it is the word curriculum. So please remember that, because I'm not going to write it anymore as a reminder to you. I'm just going to deduct some points. Sorry. All right, so your discussion board question for this week asks, why do I need to know about curriculum frameworks to which I do not subscribe or even about which I disagree? And that is a valid question. So you are being asked to provide a well-supported response that would encourage educators to research and understand a variety of modern and postmodern curriculum frameworks and explain how this can strengthen one's personal philosophy of curriculum design. So you might want to make sure you check page 183. It talks about the curriculum theoretical frameworks for both modern and postmodern perspectives. On page 185 and on to page 186, there's an overview and review of the major curriculum designs that are currently in use. And then he cites Egan in this text, giving 3 purposes that together allow us to know about curriculum foundations in the philosophical, historical, social, and psychological realms. So regarding socialization, Egan asks, do we address the needs we currently experience or look to the possibilities of the future? He also asks, and this is a big question, what knowledge is worth knowing and how do we select that knowledge and organize it? And thirdly, he talks about developmental stages and how individuals process knowledge and how we can differentiate for that. So as an example, as I'm quoting Egan here out of our authors, Ornstein and Ornstein and Hunkins, as I'm quoting that, if I were to use Egan's information in a paper, I would put in parentheses Egan, his name, as cited by Ornstein and Hunkins, and give the year of Egan's work. Egan, however, would not show up in my reference page because I did not read his work myself. I would only cite in the reference page those publications that I actually read. But if you cite a secondary source, the information for this is in your APA manual, and I just had it here. I'm going to see if I can find it again quickly. It is it's on page 178, and it's under secondary sources. So you can cite someone that you didn't read, but you have to cite them correctly. And make sure you don't put them in your own reference page. Okay, one of the other things that you are not required to do, but I think is important, so if you have some time, and I know that's very limited for most of you with 2 courses, the California framework They're talking here about frameworks and how they impact our instruction and our lesson design, but what do the frameworks actually say? And so I would encourage you to go to the California Department of Ed website under Curriculum and Instruction and check on a framework that is associated with your area of instruction. Whether if you're at elementary, you can check on the language arts, the math, social studies, or science frameworks. Some of those are under revision. The ELA framework is now done and complete. You can also look at the executive summary of it because it's very long. There are multiple chapters to it, so you might just look and see what does California say about education and how do you teach those subject areas. The new framework for the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, is very interesting. It's different. There's some changes in the math framework and how schools have, or districts have choices of organizing their mathematics classes at the secondary level. So if you haven't read the framework for yourself, or at least gone through it and had an overview of it, I strongly suggest that you take some time to do that, like great spring break reading. Okay, your other assignment is to upload 3 essential questions. And I want to give you a little bit of background about this, and then, as I said, I have a PowerPoint for it, and I will upload that as well. Backwards Design comes from Understanding by Design, which was a book written by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe, probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago perhaps, a little before its time. It's very Common Core, and the concept is that you begin with the end in mind. So it has 3 stages, and in stage 1 is where you would find your essential questions. And essential questions and stage 1 are clarifying the learning that you're seeking for your students. What do you want them to do? What is the end result? For years we have observed that curriculum planning often translates into listing activities. And I can tell you that I myself, when I was in the classroom, was very guilty of this. We all come up with fabulous activities, but they are not always closely aligned with either our instruction or our assessment. Activities come last in Backwards Design. They are part of stage 3. And sometimes we only have a general sense of what we want our outcomes to be. So it's very difficult to really plan our instruction if we don't know what those outcomes are going to be. We want to also pay attention to the assessment evidence. How do we know our students are getting there? And that's actually stage 2. Most often we design our assessments after we have done our instruction. And in this case, we look at our assessments prior to planning the instruction. So the textbook is treated more as a resource and not as the curriculum itself. So again, in Backwards Design or Understanding by Design, you'll hear me refer to it as UBD. Stage 1 is identifying your desired results. Stage 2 is assessments. We'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks. And your final stage is your learning plan, and that will be your final submission. So in stage 1, you're going to submit 3 to 5 essential questions. The assignment does not ask you to link these to enduring understandings, but I want you to really be thinking deeply about this. When I upload the PowerPoint for this, what I really want you to be thinking about essential questions and enduring understandings are big ideas. If your essential question is a question that you can answer directly by looking at a certain page in the textbook, that's a text-based question. That is not an essential question. And even some of our adopted publications, our adopted curriculum, have essential questions, but they're very limited. They're focused usually on a lesson idea. So I want you to think broader, more broadly about your questions. think outside of your own specific grade level and your own specific standards. So for instance, this is just an easy example. A lot of times in fourth grade, kids study about the California history and the movement into California. Fifth grade, you study westward movement, and you have that whole idea of how the country was settled. But a bigger idea might be, why do people move from one place to another? Why do people immigrate? These are questions we're still asking today. All of our states are settled and have been for a long time, but people continue to move, not just in the United States, but worldwide. So what causes that movement? That's an essential question. So you will grapple with these. If you want some feedback on them, feel free to email them to me, and I will give you some feedback on them. Because if your unit begins with strong essential questions, you will have a strong unit. If your questions are very limited, then your unit tends to be limited. Think too of something you're going to be teaching, because I want these units to be something that you'll use. So think of something that you're either going to be teaching between now and the end of the year, or something that you can use in your teaching next year. And what are some big ideas that you want your students to walk away with? I think that sometimes this is the most difficult for math teachers, because math seems very finite and very specific. But train yourself to think more broadly. Think about how this information can be used. What's its value to your students? Why would they want to know this? So I'm going to leave you with that this week. It's a big question. The assignment, sadly for me, it's only worth 5 points, but it is the beginning cornerstone for your unit, and I want them to be strong. So ponder it for a few days, play with it, and then if you have questions or would like some feedback, let me know. In the meantime, have a great week. I'm sure some of you are probably on spring break or approaching spring break, so I hope you get some time to spend with your families as well. And I will talk to you next week. Thanks.